discombobulating. Discombobulating. I think that is the best term to explain what Kansas City Chiefs fans have been through thus far this NFL season. There is, of course, the fact of injuries, which have popped up along the offense. 3 star playmakers gone, presumably, ostensibly, for the season. And then you throw the Kansas City Chiefs into the middle of every trade talk, trade article, trade discussion, trade segment on television that there is to be had for wide receivers, of course, because the Chiefs have lost their number 1 and number 2 wide receiver as they had heading into the season. And then we're left to reconcile the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs, through all of this, are still 5-0 heading into their bye week, best record in the NFL, tied with the Vikings, who I believe are also in their bye week, which is kind of weird, probably the script writers, who knows. And then we have to deal with the fact that after losing Rashee Rice for the season, the kid who might be back for the Super Bowl the very same day, the exact 4-month mark from when he went down would be the Super Bowl itself. But we now have to deal with the fact that somehow, after losing Hollywood Brown in the preseason, around whom some of the offense would have been built, and then losing Isaiah Pacheco early in the season, and I believe the very next week losing, of course, Rashee Rice, the Chiefs just happened to have their best offensive day of the season, play their best game, team-wise, of the season. Now, I don't know how to explain that other than the fact to say that the Kansas City Chiefs were playing the New Orleans Saints, who are now proving to be on a struggle streak. But still, this is the NFL. Still, the Saints would have given the Kansas City Chiefs their absolute best, as the Kansas City Chiefs have won 2 Super Bowls in a row. But I wanted to take a step back, and I started doing some numbers on this wide receiver core in order to look at some things to see where exactly they are. Because after losing Rashee Rice, the Kansas City Chiefs are losing 24 receptions, 288 yards, and 2 touchdowns of production through 3 games. That was one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. They went on to win the game where Rashee Rice went down, having only played in 4 snaps, and then annihilating the New Orleans Saints the very next week. What are we doing? Where are we? What are we looking at? Are the Kansas City Chiefs deeper even than we had thought? Are the Kansas City Chiefs somehow better even than we had thought, that they could withstand the blow of losing their top 3 of their top 4 offensive targets? I wanted to start with this article. Travis Kelce, Chiefs receivers silence doubters in 26-13 win versus Saints, subtitled "The Kansas City Chiefs receiving core silenced doubters in their 26-13 win against the New Orleans Saints." I don't know why you repeat the title as the subtitle. Who knows? Written by Colin Miller. Maybe we should write him a letter. The article, part of the article says this: heading into the game, the Chiefs receiving core faced a lot of questions after top weapon Rashee Rice went down in Week 4 with a knee injury. While tight end Travis Kelce was often considered one of the most consistent and reliable weapons in the league in his career, he struggled to make an impact through Kansas City's first few games. However, those concerns were likely silenced on Monday night as Kelce finished the game with 9 catches for 70 yards, putting up a vintage performance. The real standout of the Chiefs offense, though, was Juju Smith-Schuster, who led all receivers with 130 yards on 7 catches. Rookie receiver Xavier Worthy was also able to get into the end zone for the second straight week. The running back Kareem Hunt looked very comfortable in his return to Arrowhead Stadium, picking up 102 yards and a touchdown. Overall, the Chiefs offense had their most productive night of the season as they reached the red zone on 7 of their 10 drives. While some might be concerned that they were only able to get 2 touchdowns out of the 7 trips, it's still a massive improvement from earlier games. That much is true. Now, I did some numbers on these wide receivers in order to get a little bit closer to what we're actually watching, because the Chiefs did lose their number one wide receiver in Rashee Rice. What are we looking at around Rashee Rice, and can we take some solace in the fact that we do still have these other wide receivers active? Can the Kansas City Chiefs win games with these other wide receivers? Well, let's start with Juju Smith-Schuster. Here's the thing that seems to be a truism for this offense. The number one wide receiver is not a position as much as a body type. The Chiefs seem to like to run this offense through a huskier type of wide receiver. It was Juju Smith-Schuster in 2022. It became Rashee Rice last year. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, you can say it's because of his level of skill, I understand, but he was never considered the number one target. He was never moved into that big target position. He was never the guy who got all of the targets from Patrick Mahomes. The same, it seems, will be true with Xavier Worthy. So, in the first full game of Rashee Rice's absence, Juju Smith-Schuster was thrust into that number one target role. Last year, at times, before the emergence of Rashee Rice, it was Justin Watson. Remember that? He is a thicker type of receiver. He's a muscular type of receiver. So it seems to be that's the guy they want getting the targets. In 2022, through 5 games, Juju Smith-Schuster had 22 receptions, 257 yards, which is an 11.68 yard average on 244 snaps. What this all comes down to, the year that Juju Smith-Schuster was the number one target in Kansas City, through 5 games, all things equal, per snap, Juju Smith-Schuster was worth 1.05 yards. 1.05 yards every snap that he played football in 2022. Now, he has played 90 fewer snaps this season than that season, but he wasn't the number one guy. He was kind of the number 3, number 4 target. Still, this year, through these 5 games, with one massive game, he's put up 9 receptions, 147 yards, a 16.33 yard average. That's 5 yards per catch better than his 2022 numbers, despite the fact that he has not played nearly as much this year, being that in those first 3 games, he was the number 4 target, number 5 target, including Travis Kelce, including Noah Gray. This season so far, he has been worth 0.95 yards per snap. Just 1/10 of a yard difference from that 2022 season. I'm not here to tell you that Juju Smith-Schuster is going to come out and put up a 933, 78 reception season, though that year he only had 3 touchdowns. He has 1 already this year. What I am saying, however, is that going forward, it seems that he might be able to make a similar game-by-game impact that he did make in that 2022 season, no matter what it is that they will tell you in New England. It's weird how players don't work out some places and then do work out other places, but it seems that Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes and Juju Smith-Schuster have some type of special connection. Maybe they should make a Hallmark movie out of that. Moving on. Xavier Worthy is having so far, so maybe I should go back. If Juju Smith-Schuster is the number one target in Kansas City moving forward, if they make no moves, it appears to me that they are going to be able to run an offense that can win a Super Bowl in that fashion. At least it won't be the number one wide receiver position that disallows that ability. Does that make sense? it will not be because Juju Smith-Schuster is the number one guy that this team falters. So, from that perspective, do the Kansas City Chiefs need to go out and trade for a number one wide receiver? Maybe not. Now, he's only done it one game this season. I understand that. He's only done it one game when it was against the struggling New Orleans Saints. I understand that. But what this shows is those types of performances are still in Juju's bones. He can still do that level of thing. What about Xavier Worthy? Let's look at Xavier Worthy compared to Rashee Rice's first 5 games of his rookie season. That seems fair. This was a player drafted just last year, came on much harder in the end of the season, much stronger through the latter part of the year, but just on these first 5 games, Rashee Rice had 17 receptions, 173 yards. Those are good numbers. He had a 10.17 yard average per reception. Pretty good numbers. He had 2 receiving touchdowns. Nice. He had 1 carry for -3 yards, bringing his totals to 170 total yards and a 9.4 average per touch. Okay. How does that compare to Xavier Worthy? Xavier Worthy has 5 fewer receptions with 12. Has 6 more yards with 179. This gives him an impressive 14.91 yard per reception average. That is better than 4 yards more, nearly 5 yards more per reception than had Rashee Rice through his rookie season. They have the same 2 touchdowns. Here is where it gets wild in favor of Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy has 6 carries for 42 yards and 2 more touchdowns. Xavier Worthy has 4 touchdowns on the season. He has 221 total yards on the season compared to 170 that Rashee Rice had through the same first 5 games of his season. Meaning, Xavier Worthy has accumulated 51 more yards of offense through 5 games. He has a 12.27 average per touch. He has 18 total touches. That's one more touch than Rashee Rice had through 5 games. He has 51 more yards. He has 2 more touchdowns. And despite the fact that he has 1 more touch, he has a 3 yard per touch 3 yard per touch advantage over Rashee Rice. But it's not really. So, okay, this projects him out to 41 receptions, 608 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He's still projected to end the season with fewer yards than Rashee Rice in his rookie season. He's projected to have 61 touches, 751 yards, and 14 total touchdowns. Obviously more touchdowns than had Rashee Rice through his rookie season, but 61 touches, 751 yards, still all touches combined projected to have 200-ish fewer yards than Rashee Rice during his rookie season. This shows you how strong Rashee Rice came on towards the end of the season. Is Xavier Worthy that much less talented than Rashee Rice that he cannot accelerate towards the end of this year the way that Rashee Rice did? I don't know that I'm willing to make that bet. We see him with many more yards, 51 more yards through 5 games. That's 10 yards per game. That doesn't sound like a lot. It's a first down per game given to you by Xavier Worthy that Rashee Rice was not giving you. He's giving you an average of a first down every time he touches the ball. Very impressive. But the real analog to Xavier Worthy is not Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice emerged as that number 1 target type guy. Rashee Rice emerged as the X guy in the offense. The real analog for Xavier Worthy is Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He's going to be, it seems, the number 2 guy. You'll have Juju over here. You'll have Xavier over here. You'll have Travis Kelce somewhere in the middle. That seems to be the real case for this offense. Juju Smith-Schuster might not be able to do what it is that Rashee Rice did, but he can do what Juju Smith-Schuster did in 2022, which was good enough for a Super Bowl. In 2022, Juju Smith-Schuster was not playing alongside Xavier Worthy. So what was it that Marquez Valdes-Scantling did last year for the Kansas City Chiefs that allowed them to win the Super Bowl? 21 receptions, 315 yards, and a touchdown. I'm going to repeat that. The Kansas City Chiefs' number 2 wide receiver last season. Now, not number 2 by catches. I believe he was 4 by catches. Rashee Rice was number 1 for the wide receivers. I believe that with 27, Justin Watson, and Kadarius Toney were tied with 27. I believe someone had like 29. I can't remember who it was, top of my head. But Marquez Valdes-Scantling had 21 receptions, 315 yards, and a touchdown all of last season. He was the number 2 target, the number 2 wide receiver, I believe by snap counts, for the Kansas City Chiefs. At least, almost definitely through most of the season by snap counts. Xavier Worthy is projected to double up those numbers, not including his rushing attempts. MVS, I do not believe, had any rushing attempts. I just top of my head didn't check that. I don't believe he had any rushing attempts. Xavier Worthy, once again, projected to have 41 receptions, one fewer than twice the 21 receptions that MVS had last year. He's projected to have 608 yards. 630 would be double what Marquez Valdes-Scantling did. He's projected to have 7 touchdowns. That's 7 times what Marquez Valdes-Scantling had. He's projected to have 14 total touchdowns. Again, probably not going to happen, but that would be 14 times the production that you had from Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Looking at him as a total offensive weapon, those 751 projected yards, well more than double what it was that Marquez Valdes-Scantling had. Now, the last wide receiver to look at here is Justin Watson. Justin Watson is the 3rd wide receiver by receptions of those wide receivers left. His 2024 numbers so far are 6 receptions, 87 yards. This gives him a projection of 20 receptions, 296 yards. Probably these numbers are going to be greater than that because during the time where he was accumulating those stats, he was further down the depth chart. In 2023, he had 27 receptions, 460 yards. He's on pace to miss both of those numbers. I don't think he's going to miss those numbers, especially if the Kansas City Chiefs do not go out and get a wide receiver. Now, I say all of that to say this. I think they're going to get somebody. I really do. I don't know if it's going to be a great big name. We have not seen Brett Veach make those type of in-season acquisitions in the past. But we have seen Brett Veach be extremely aggressive in trying to get to the Super Bowl. Brett Veach knows that winning a 3rd consecutive Super Bowl cements his spot in the annals of football. He knows that. He knows that a 3rd consecutive Super Bowl further cements everyone on this roster with their spot in football moving forward. Andy Reid's already a Hall of Famer. Patrick Mahomes already a Hall of Famer. Travis Kelce, Hall of Famer. Chris Jones, Hall of Famer. Another consecutive Super Bowl puts a whole lot more of these guys in the Hall of Fame. And it might sound silly to bring that up as a talking point. I promise you it is not in the hallways of One Arrowhead Drive. I promise you that some of the guys on this team, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, these types of guys who were starters through all of those Super Bowls are going to remember Brett Veach for the rest of their lives, are going to welcome Brett Veach into their homes for the rest of their lives, are going to send Brett Veach Merry Christmas texts for the rest of their lives. If this Super Bowl happens, it is a motivating factor to the minute-by-minute level, and it should be. This is immortality to win 3 consecutive Super Bowls. So I very much believe that there will be a move made. And then we'll have to reassess what this wide receiver core looks like at that time. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping videos every day. I've dropped a video every day for over 600 consecutive days now, and I hope to have you back for the next one.